All right, so let me fix my camera a little here. Um, we're going to start off using our pencil. Oops, sorry for that crazy moving around here of my camera. We're going to start off using our pencil, and as you can see, this is sort of big. So you're going to be using pretty much the middle of your sheet of paper, depending on what size you're using, 9 by 12, 8.5 by 11. And I'm just going to put a little more light on this guy for you. There you go. Okay, so we're going to get started and we're going to start with our ducky's head. So we're going to start, coming from the top of the page. We're going to go down probably about, 3-ish, 4 inches, and we'll start with the head. And so it's going to be sort of circular. The other thing you want to start off with, as I was just reminding myself, you want to start off to the left, toward the left side of your page because oh, looks like we just got, oh, Karen just came on. Or maybe Karen got bumped off, I think. um, oh no, Joanne? Okay. Um, sorry about that. I'm like talking at the same time someone else is coming on. So we're gonna start off with a circular head here. And again, you want to make sure to be over to the left side of your page. And then we're going to start with, hey, Joanne.
Hi.
Hello. I'm just putting the information in the chat for you.
All righty.
You're welcome. Okay. And while after we do the circular head, we're actually going to then create the shape of the nose here. Well, the beak. And so what I'm doing is making sure that my entire shape kind of fits in. And as you can see, I've drawn like a circular area at the bottom portion of the beak for this part. So, and also, you can see that I've started to draw over the circle because his beak is coming from here and we would still see the other side of his face, his little duck face. So I'm gonna go up a bit. Also, just as a reminder that you want to be drawing this lightly, since we're going to go back and use colored pencils. I draw darker so that you are able to see it on Zoom. Now, I have to go back and make this part a lot higher, right? So his top portion of his beak should be bigger than the bottom. So a little bit more like that. And I'll make sure everybody gets caught up before we move on. I'm just gonna, you know what, I'm gonna add another light source here just to add a little more light to this for all of you. Okay. All right, and now we're gonna go inside the mouth part and we're gonna draw his tongue here. Gonna look a little bit like this shape. And then finally, we're gonna add a little bit more on the bottom portion of his beak here. So this part here, and when you're ready, you can erase the line from his head that is showing inside his beak. So I just erased that line right there. I'm sure all of you have seen all the different rubber ducks they have now, like dressed up, like different characters. They've got Halloween ones. I think I have a Dracula rubber ducky somewhere, because I like Halloween. And I thought it was really funny because he's got little fangs. Um, they have so many. It's really funny. Okay, so next step, what we're going to do is we're going to round out this part up here. So I made that a little more pointy, but now we're going to round that out. And now we're going to continue with the rest of the head. Before we do that, though, we're going to add in the eye, right? And it's really just this um, oval. And it's kind of it's an oval that is not straight up and down, right? It's a little bit leaning. As a matter of fact, I don't have mine leaning as much, and I need to make it lean a little more, like so. And then after that, we're now going to continue with his neck. And you'll have a chance to sort of reconfigure his head just a little bit. Like there's a little bit of a bump back here when it comes to after his neck. And then remember his chin underneath here. So we have his chin. And then again, kind of a little spot where the front of his neck is, and then we start with his rubber duck body. And he's a little bit flat on the bottom, right? Because he's kind of in the water. And feel free to personalize yours if you want. If you want to put a hat on it or a mustache or something, feel free to make it your own if you want. I just did a plain rubber ducky. It's so funny. So I think like some of us, right, grew up or at least know about Sesame Street. And every time I think of Rubber Ducky, I don't know if anyone remembers the Rubber Ducky song that Bert and Ernie sang. And that's all I think of is the Rubber Ducky, You're the One. I think that's what the song is. I'm gonna have to try and find it on YouTube after this. And so also with his tail, there is a tiny bit of a sort of like a little bit of a lump over here for the tail feather. I'm gonna put that up close a little more. See, I'm fixing it here a bit. And then I like to kind of just pre-draw in a little bit of the puddle of water just for now. We're gonna go and redraw everything in the colors that are, meant to be like the blues and all that. But you can start to draw the bubbles. feel like this is a really fun one. I apologize for you can probably hear the sirens in the back. The ambulance is going by our house. We live very close to the ambulance corps, so we can always tell when it's a busy, unfortunately, when it's a busy day or night. And then, feel free to add bubbles or take some away. Okay. And also, we then have to go on top of our rubber ducky here and make his little wing here as well. So we're going to curve that around. And then I like to sort of make it a shape and then split it into that shape. Like so. I'm laughing because laughing at myself, but now I'm going to tell you why. Because as I'm drawing this, I remember showing this to my husband Chris a few years ago, and he thought this was a foot. And now I can't unsee it. Right? He's like, "Why is there a foot on the rubber duck?"
How does he know?
I Oh, he's downstairs watching some game.
No, I said, what does he know?
Oh, what does he know? I thought you said, "Where is he now?" I know, right?
You're the creative one.
John Paul, that looks awesome. Beautiful. But now I can't unsee it. And now I laugh.
I got this bubbles at the rubber ducky right
I
here.
love it. Aren't the bubbles fun?
Yeah.
And that's
So
a
we've
bubble
got,
on his front too, right?
yep, he's
Front
got
of the wing.
bubbles here. He's
I don't
got,
want to know what the bubbles on the back are.
I never even thought of that. That's great.
Okay, now you won't be able to unthink that.
I was going to say, so now I'm going to always think of the foot, and now I'm going to think of his back bubbles.
His toot bubbles.
His two bubbles.
Oh my
It's
goodness.
great. I love it. All right, and then we got the toot bubbles. Thanks to Rebecca. That's
I have the
great.
sense of humor of a 12-year-old boy, I think. So,
But you know what? I do too. I say that all the time. That's exactly what I say, that I have I say between 10 and 12 because sometimes I'm really juvenile. So, yeah, it's so true. That's why I'm surprised that I must have been really serious when I was drawing this to not think that. But I didn't catch the foot either, so. And then before we, simple drawing, right? This one's actually a pretty simple drawing, I think. And so you just want to kind of go through and make sure that everything looks the way you want, because our next step is going to be redrawing everything in the colors that it's supposed to be, and also making everything a little bit lighter. As far as the pencil marks. So we are first going to be using red for the outline of our rubber ducky. And so what you want to do is we're going to outline his body. And then as you are, or I should say, after you're done drawing it, you're then going to erase the pencil underneath. So here I am, just following along. So we're doing the body first, as far as outlining. We do also outline the beak in red. So you can do that too. We're going to do all the outlining first. And then we get to do the really fun shading. I loved shading this one because it's a rubber ducky. It's fun. Okay. And just take your time. It doesn't have to be a dark outline, by the way. We will go back later. Oh, this is red, Kim. I know it looks orangey. We are going to go back and actually make some orange on it, but this is for now red for the outline. Also, when you get to the bubble, his toot bubble, you want to actually use blue for the outline of his body. And that would actually be the color blue as it's passing through the bubble. And while you're at it, you can outline the bubbles in blue. And this is the regular blue for right now. And here again, you don't want it to be really dark yet. You just want enough so that you're able to erase away the pencil. I forgot his wing.
What about water?
Yep, you want to do the blue, regular blue. Oh, the water. Yes. Yes, the water, you also want to do regular blue for right now. Thank you, John Paul. That. And you can do his eye. And that's black for right now. And again, just the outline. Everything is just the outline. And then when you are ready, you're going to erase away the pencil underneath. This is where you'll find out if you haven't traced over a section, because you will have erased. And you won't have a guide left because you didn't realize that you didn't trace over that part. I've done it. I've done it a lot of times. And so now you should have your outline of your rubber ducky in the approximate outlined colors that it's going to be. I know mine looks very light on Zoom. I'm going to move my camera up a little bit over here. Give everybody another minute But we're going to start with the black in the eye when you are ready. I feel like I'm always finding more pencil marks. It's so funny. Like I erase and then I go, oh, there's more pencil that I didn't uncover. Oops. Okay. So with our black, we're gonna start to shade in the eye. But what I want you to notice is that there are two spots where you want to have the highlight. And so we're going to kind of draw those in. We're going to draw in the shape of those. They're kind of, like almost like apostrophes or commas, right? So we'll start up at the top here and we will pre-draw that shape there. And I'm going to go in really close now so that you are able to see what I'm doing. And then we're going to pre-draw this one down here. And I'm using the black since we're then going to color that in. So around it. So now you're taking your black and you're going to color it in nice and solid. It's going to take a little bit of some, pressing down so that you fill in all the white spaces of the eye. And if you have to go lighter at first when you are coloring it in, please do. I sometimes tend to do that too, and then, get darker as I'm finishing it out.
What do you think of this eye?
Ooh, lovely. Very good. So we are not done with the eye. We are going to grab our yellow and we're going to add a little bit of yellow on both parts of the white of the paper. So inside that eye, I have added some yellow. A little hard to see on Zoom. There is some yellow in the white parts of the eye, the reflected parts. And now we get to start with our yellow on our rubber ducky. So we're going to grab our yellow, and basically we're going to be coloring in the entire body. But what you want to do is do a lightly shaded
The rest of the yellow.
regular like the regular yellow. Like not the golden yellow, but the regular yellow. And so you want to cover the entire area of his body. And right now, it just needs to be a lightly shaded, just enough to cover the white of the paper. And then we're going to go back and we're going to start adding in the darker areas. And we do that first with the yellow, and then we do it with the golden yellow, and then we do it with the orange, and then we add a little bit of red. So it sounds like a lot of shading, and it is. I can't lie. But it is I feel like this is a really fun one and an easy one to make look kind of realistic. The other thing you're going to do is you're going to make sure that you go inside the bubbles that are on his body, but you're going to leave a little bit of some white showing. So on the right side of each bubble, I like to leave the space, almost like I create like a yellow circle inside each bubble on the left side using the yellow colored pencil. And that's just for now, because we want to make sure that it looks transparent. So this is a lot of coloring at first. You're also going to make sure to get his wing. So the thing about colored pencil is that it takes time to get it to look nice and even. One of the things that you can do is color in a circular fashion. Like I'm coloring in circles. And what that does is it helps fill in the space a little bit quicker. Now you don't have to do it through the whole thing. You know, you can go left to right, up and down. But it's just a tip to kind of help color in the space. And it doesn't seem like it would be quicker because you're going in circles, but it helps it be a little bit more even in a quicker way. This is going to be like coloring in a coloring book, except making it look really realistic. Ooh, very nice, John Paul. So the reason we're doing it very light at first is because we're then going to pick up our golden yellow and we're going to lay in the parts that are a little bit darker. And then we're going to go back and we're going to smooth it out with the yellow again. So when you're ready, you're going to pick up your golden yellow. And the first thing we're going to do is we're going to draw a little bit of a sort of a little anchor part, like a little bridge above his nose. So it's going to show that up close. So see that right there. And then we're also going to do that around his eyes. So we're going to make sort of some lines around his eye. See, and you can tell, you know, I'm not all colored in yet. But we're now going to take our golden yellow and we're going to start up at the top of his head, right near his beak. And we're going to start making it a little bit darker. Right at the top of his head and right where the tip of that sort of bridge area I asked you to do. You're going to make that a little darker. And you can already tell, right, that I've made that a little darker. And then we're going to go underneath his beak here. And we're going to shade with this golden yellow, kind of like where his chin is. And then you're also going to do it right across where the line is for the bottom portion of his chin. I think I have to get a darker yellow. I don't think mine is a golden yellow. Hold on just a sec. Mine is not looking as golden. Okay. I had harvest yellow. I'm going, why isn't it looking as golden? Okay, so now sorry, let me just sharpen this real fast. Ooh. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to go under his neck here. And we're also going to create a shadow. And it's going to be kind of like a triangular shadow, like an upside down triangular shadow. So if you can see the triangle, the point would be sort of this part here where under his neck is. Like so. Okay. And now we're going to continue on this left side here, and we're basically going to go all the way around and kind of outline on the inside and shade using this golden yellow. So we're going to go all the way around. And you're going to shade about, like it's like a 1/4 of an inch for right now. Except when you get to the bottom here. And we're going to shade a little bit thicker. So probably maybe 1/2 an inch. And we're going to keep going all the way around and do the same thing until we get to around the bubble. You're going to go through the bubble. Past and his tail, which you make a little bit darker on the edge here because it's curved over. And when you get to his back, you're going to also make a part right over here a little bit thicker. So see this part here? I'm going to go up close. And then we're going to extend it kind of leading up to underneath his neck. And we're going to continue the same thing on the back of his neck and the back of his head. We're going to go up towards that bubble. And we're going to shade the top part of his head. And he's already starting to look a little more realistic, right? We're going to shade around his eyes. Remember we made those lines? Well, then you're going to kind of shade around those lines, kind of making like a circular shading here. We'll go back later on to make those lines a little more orange. And now we're going to go to the wing on the outside, on the left, and we're going to shade right around it on the left and a little bit underneath, but not where we get to see the the separate feathers, not yet. Then we are going to shade on the inside of the first feather. Oh, very nice, John Paul. Beautiful. And then we're going to shade kind of in on the edge here. So this is sort of a light shading of our golden yellow. And inside each feather, we're going to shade a little bit on the left side. So like here, basically where each feather comes in, like the line of each feather. And then we're going to grab our yellow again. And we're now going to go really hard on the whole body. Now, we still want to be able to, add a little more shading. So this isn't the complete yellow part yet, but we want to go a little bit darker. So you see I'm kind of pressing on the color so that I'm really starting to cover the yellow. And we want to leave some whiter areas. So by the head, so we have yellow there, we have the right, but we're going to still leave it. We don't want it like real white. So that's why we covered it a little bit. And there's a spot right here, right above his eye. Do that. So you're going to go around it. It's almost like you make an oval of lighter area right there. We're going to do it a few other times. So we're going to get to the neck. And we're going to leave a little bit of, so what I'm going to do, I'm actually going to draw the space for you not to color in. So that's the space you don't color in. You're going to color around it with the yellow on the back of his kind of back here. And we're going to do the same thing. Again, I'm going to circle that space. You're going to color around here. This is with yellow. And you're going to keep going. And there is one more space, which is right here, that you're going to leave the white of the paper. And then we'll talk about his wing.
Where was that last space, Anita? Sorry.
Oh, yeah.
Down there. Okay. Thanks.
Yep. You're welcome. I know it's hard to see with the yellow on Zoom. Remember, inside the bubbles, we still have that sort of white of the paper on the kind of right side of the bubbles. So this is where, you really want to, you can change direction as you're coloring so that you are filling in a lot of the white of the paper. Remember, we haven't gotten to his wing yet with this. It's going to kind of be the same situation as we did before, where we leave the white of the paper where it is right now. but we'll get to that. And he should be looking pretty yellow. Oh, very nice, John Paul. Beautiful. And now we're going to get to his wing. And right where we added the golden yellow and yellowish, we're going to do that again. And sort of the white is going to be outside each of the wings, each of the feathers, I should say. Sorry about that. Almost like there's a white line around the wing. And then we're going to pick up our golden yellow one more time. And we're going to get really deep on the parts where we added the golden yellow before. So on the top of his head. Right under his beak here. And his chin. His head. Around his body again, remember, on the left side, about maybe half an inch to an inch. We are going to go in a little more toward the bubbles after this, but for now, we're going around the perimeter of him. Remember, as we get to the bottom, we extend it a little bit by maybe about an inch for the shading with this golden yellow. Going up towards his tail. Inside the bubble. And then again on the back of his tail. And behind. And then we're going to start adding some expanded shading right around the left side of his wing. And so you're going to expand that a little bit more right here. We're setting this up for when we're adding the orange. You're going to go underneath a little bit as well. And you're going to expand that a little bit. So about right here. So I'm kind of showing you that. And then that's going to go into the whole back end of him on the right side of his wings. Now he's always going to be a little bit darker toward the edge of him, just so you know. And we're also going to go up towards this part of the back of him and go a little darker and also expand it just a little bit before we go back to our orange. And like right here, a little bit more. And then finally on his wing, we're going to make it darker in those white spots using our golden yellow. And then we're going to pick up our orange. And we're going to start at the top of his, right above his beak. And you're now going to start making it a bit orange right around there. And so basically what we just did with the golden yellow, you're going to add a little bit of some orange as we go around the top of his head. So you're going to trace and shade. But you're going to shade more as you get to the back of his head here. And again, it's always a bit darker around his head, and then it gets a little bit lighter as you start to go into the left part of his head there, like inside. You also want to trace around his eye again. And you can shade. So now we are adding orange to all the parts where we added the gold and yellow, and also outlining in orange as well. You know, and if you want, you can outline first in the orange, kind of like what we did with the red. And then shade. So basically the reason we outlined in red first and then went to orange is so that we have a sort of combination of some darker, which is the red, darker shading, and then lighter, which is the orange, and then some medium, which is that golden yellow. We're going to go right under his chin. And then also shade going towards his belly and chest with the orange. So here again, you can shade kind of light, and then as you start to get towards the outline of him, you can start to shade a little bit heavier. So you press a little harder on your colored pencil. And I like to kind of flip mine around as I'm coloring, kind of rotate my illustration around. I feel like this one's very relaxing because it's not a lot of thinking, but it's just shading. It's like coloring, right? So as you get to the tip of the tail here, you also want to make sure you get that on the tip, a little more orangey. And then you can see I'm bringing in some shading in this area. Again, like kind of like a little triangular space or area, because there would be a shadow here. And then we're going to shade the entire back of his body here to the right of the wing. Kind of like from here on. And then on the right side of his wing, or on the outside of it, right? And underneath. And we're going to make sure to outline each of the feathers with a little bit of some orange shading as well. And then on the underside of each feather, and then I like to go around one more time just to sort of outline a little bit more in the orange. We're going to do one more time with the red too. And then we're going to switch to the beak. And that is actually going to be all yellow, golden yellow. So with the beak, we're going to go all golden yellow through the whole thing. The beak is a lot darker. So we start off with the golden yellow for the main color. Or I should say the base color. We're going to outline in orange. So we're outlining, and also the parts that we drew are also outlined in orange. And then we're going to start shading. And we're going to start off with his little kind of cheek area here. And basically, we shade kind of like almost like a smile there. And then more like a rounded dot here. We're going to shade on top of his beak area here and all across the top area of his bill, kind of making like a, as we're shading, we're kind of drawing it a little bit on the outside and shading within that area. So almost like shading in a loop as we go toward his, toward the inside of the top part. And then we shade in the other loop. We're going to shade a little on his sort of tongue area and around it. And then along the edge of his bottom beak. And then finally, in this part of his beak, around this area here, but leaving some of the yellow. And when you're ready, you're going to pick up the red. And this is the final, almost the final part to the beak. We come up at the top. And basically what we're doing with this red is we are making some parts of it a bit deeper with the red. So around where his beak kind of separates here. And we're going to outline the entire beak in red. We're going to go back and shade. And so the parts that are the darkest, which would be the red, are going to be more inside where there's a shadow. So like toward this part of the tongue, and then on the inside, the top part of his beak underneath. So we have that red to be the darker area, and then we still have the orange so that it looks like it's shading, you know, like it's going from darker to light. We're going to shade the outside of his bottom beak here, on the inside of the beak, but you know, toward the edge. And then around the tongue. And then we have a little bit along the edge of the top beak. So everywhere where we have the orange, we shade a little bit of the red. We're going to add a few more sections of the red on the top of his head where the beak is. That part. We're going to go on the back of his part here, right before the tail, with a little bit of red. Beautiful, John Paul. A little bit. Wow, very nice.
What do you think of the beak?
It's beautiful. We're going to go underneath on the left side of the wing here. And then a little bit on the bottom. This is with the red. You can go a little on the tip of his tail here too. But then we're finally going to grab our light blue, or I'm sorry, the turquoise. And we're going to start on the bubbles. We're going to outline the bubbles in turquoise. So right on top of where we did the blue, you're now going to outline the bubbles in turquoise. And the water. And then you're going to start lightly shading your bubbles, but making sure that you leave the white of the paper. So for instance, this bubble will be kind of a shaded curve. And especially where the two bubbles connect.
Is this a light blue?
Yes. Oh, no, no, this is turquoise. I'm sorry. This is turquoise.
I thought so.
Sorry. Light blue is next. So we just do a little bit of some light shading with this turquoise. Mainly what I do is around kind of the edge of each of the bubbles. No worries, Lisa. I know I'm running a little late. So good to see you. So each of the bubbles, you do a little bit of some light shading. And this is just kind of a real quick thing because you want to make sure that they are transparent. The water, you go a little bit darker underneath him and then a little on the corners of the water. But you want to make it look, whoops, you want to make it look like water by, shading, but making some lines. Yay. I know. Yep. Oh my gosh, Lisa, I know. I sing the same song. Rubber ducky, you're the one. So great. Good night. You're gonna add a little bit of some light blue. Basically, you're going to outline some parts of the bubble with the light blue. So for instance, I would outline where the two are meeting and like maybe here and up here. So do you see? There's the bubbles that I'm kind of outlining a little bit of a curve and then maybe across the way on the same circle, but not going around the whole thing. Just outlining a little bit with this. This is with the light blue. So it gives a little bit of the bubble, a little definition, but not much. And you can do the same with the water, except underneath him. And then we've got one last finishing part with the regular blue. We're going to go outside the beak and we're going to outline the beak in blue. You're probably thinking, what? Yes, blue and orange are opposites on the color wheel. And so this would be the shadow. You could do black, but it would look a little flat. So we're going to take the regular blue and we're going to outline all the parts of the beak and on the inside. And you're going to add a little tiny bit of shading at the top portion of the beak under the mouth, on either side of the tongue, and in the middle. And then we are finally going to grab our black. So just a little bit of the blue. Then we grab the black and we just outline where the beak is meeting up with the head. So we're going to do little parts that we're outlining with the black here. top part of the beak. On the edge of the beak, the bottom part. And finally, in this section of the beak as well. And you can add just a tiny bit of some black for the shading on top of the blue. I can't wait to see what these look like. So I'm going to stop the recording.